Good morning. Morning Oasis time. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to come in. Moments, I guess I should say, instead of minutes. And turn things off. It was quite the night last night, you guys. I was just talking with a couple of friends about just all the dreams and just this intense energy that's coming through. Hi, Jessie. It is bright, isn't it, right now? It's very bright. and yet fading just the way I like it to. Good morning, Siska. So I had a request for today's show, and it was a question, and it wasn't one that I felt I could save for Friday's Q&A. It felt like it was kind of bigger than that, and then to have everything kind of line up with my own dream state last night and this morning, the work I've been supporting people with in sessions and individual work has all kind of like led to today being a show about shadow work. I had a sausage before the show. Thank you, Michelle. Yes, happy Flowing Water Day indeed. Now, I have two people who requested card pulls for today. That means that I have room for one more card pull if anybody wants to request. I'm going to go ahead and pull for Chris, who's going to have to listen later because she has her physical therapy today. So, Chris, you got the goddesses wanting to talk with you. Siska, all right, I'll put you down. Perfect. And as always, you guys, if you request now, you can have your pull tomorrow, and tomorrow's Q&A Friday. So it's all about all about your guys' questions and responses, and you guys get to shape the show. You can also send me your requests for tomorrow's show of questions in advance if you think of them. So really quick, I'll just do a couple of quick little announcements because we have some things coming up. What was it? We've got on the 18th, we've got the chakra workshop that's going to be at the New Renaissance bookstore from 3 to 6 p.m. I think there's still spots available. And I'm actually going to have my sound guy there recording. So we're going to be recording a new version of the workshop that can be purchased later as a recorded version of the workshop. Because New Renaissance has their own policy about charges, it's only $30 to attend that workshop there. If you purchase it from me directly, it's $88. So that's a great deal. If you want to be able to be there live, be a part of it, have your questions answered directly, be a part of that flow that's in there, then that's the way to do it if you're at all able or interested. That chakra workshop, by the way, chakras they're a critical part of our energy system. They are where the energy splits up and translates itself into our physicality. So if we are not aware of what's going on there, if we're not making a practice or an intention of working on them, and some of them you can work on, and some of them are just a reflection of where you're at, then it seems like we're being led by our nose instead of feeling like we have some sense of grounded footing in what's going on in our lives. So I would strongly recommend it if you're new to energy work, consciousness expansion work. It's a great way to start, and it's a great way to come into my class work as well. The other announcement is that we have the Emerald Spiral Fair in Kent, Washington coming up. That's on the 25th, I believe. I'm just going to look because I'm horrible with dates and times, as you guys know. Yeah, that's Saturday the 25th. I'll be doing readings, mini sessions, and all sorts of things there. We may have a new product to demo by the time we get there, but we'll have to see. So Chris, your card, I know you're going to be watching this in the replay. You have Amaterasu, which we've had before. She's the Japanese goddess of inner beauty and love. right? And this is that reminder that no matter how we feel on the outside, our inner beauty is radiating out from us, and others are drawn to that. She also calls to you, I'm feeling the sense that she's calling to you to reflect on that inner beauty. I have a sense that, I've talked with you before, and I know that you struggle with feeling of value, feeling of beauty. And she's really calling that up to say, hey, you are beautiful and amazing on the inside. So those doubts that you're feeling right now, the struggle that you're facing because you have been climbing a mountain to come back out of the fall that you had. So she's there with you, supporting you, and you can call on her to help bring that energy, that vibration of knowing that inner beauty, inner peace. So that's that card pull. Andrea Barnes asked for a card pull yesterday, so she's next. Let me see. No, not the goddesses. She's getting the earth magic. These earth magic cards have been wanting to come out quite a bit, haven't they? I don't know if you've had time to look at or read. I did go ahead and post an energetic update. I don't generally do those. However, I've had so many independent people contacting me, asking me about these kind of symptoms, issues, struggles, and challenges that I felt the need to just go ahead and put something out there. Usually I just follow Tiffany styles, but it felt like it was necessary. Oh, this is funny. So Andrea, you got the ancestors and generations. And why this is funny to me is because last night I had a dream that lasted all night long. And throughout the whole dream, it was the people that were in the dream were this family that I used to identify with. They were like a surrogate family for me for a short period of my life after my mom moved away and left me living alone on a farm in the middle of nowhere. So I felt like I was being spoken to not by these people, but that this was like a shell that they were using to communicate with me. And it turns out it feels pretty strongly like they were ancestors and elders that were talking with me and sharing information with me. So the ancestors are strong right now. This also calls to, with ancestors and generations, right now, the session work I've been doing with people has been all around genetic work, which is our ancestral work. Our genetics, our DNA is an inherited physicality. So, it's the combination of our energetic consciousness as well as our physical DNA that shapes our experience. So oftentimes in energetic work, it gets forgotten to address the genetics as well. So right now is the time to be looking at our ancestral heritage. If you're struggling with something, an issue, look back down your line and see if it's not a theme in your family, a theme in your lineage, if you know your lineage. If you don't know your lineage, then perhaps you're being shown it. So that's the card pull for you. And Siska, the Messenger Oracle deck. Kind of having a repeat of yesterday, right? Same cards are wanting to talk. Let's see. And I don't know about you guys, but I have not been sleeping well the last 3 nights now. It's been very hard to get a full night's sleep, so you're going to see me probably yawning, and this isn't like an energy yawn. And sipping my smiling coffee. You also might hear the bell ring and my husband exit. Today is his Thursday where he leaves a little bit late. He's generously hanging out down by the door so that he doesn't have to run and we don't have to holler and yell. He's so sweet about that. Thank you, honey. All right, and this came up yesterday also. So Siska, you got Nourish the Soul. Now, I just shuffled those cards and and cut and everything. So this is clearly a repeating, very important message that we're getting over and over. It's also the message that was in the the post that I put up earlier. So, right now it is all about nourishment and bringing in, actually, you know what? I want to read the message from it because it was just that beautiful. I ended up reading it to Mariah last night, which I have to say, and I'm sure she won't mind this at all. So Mariah is in the middle of really trying to understand and figure out how to nourish herself because she's struggling with her drive. And so yesterday was, I think, one of the few times she's been able to actually attend the live show, because normally she's at school or driving her kids somewhere or trying to get her own work done. And after the show, she just dropped into some deep, deep meditation, which many of us did after yesterday's show. I personally meditated for a couple hours afterward as well. There was some break between. For her, she went in 3 hours of meditation, woke up, and found that her car had been stolen. Her car had been stolen. Now, this is a lady who can't just replace a car. So, and for her, she's needing nourishment so badly. Now, Siska, what I'm getting for you is that it's an adjustment of the nourishment that you are needing. And they want me to read this, so I'm going to. I'm like, yeah, I just got the cue again. Shut up and read it. Drink in life. Use your senses to explore your world, to see, touch, and taste, to smell, hear, and experience all that is within you and around you. Your journey through life is meant to be a sensory experience. Your life is meant to be a rainbow of color, full of motion and sounds. It is not meant to be a bland, tasteless experience or existence of simply black and white. Be sensual, explore yourself and your world in every day, and nourish your soul with every moment. Exactly, drink in life. Exactly, Michelle. I think that we tend to get caught up in thinking if everything is going well, everything is good, then I'm doing good. And if everything is going bad, then I am doing bad. And I think this is an opportunity to find the nourishment in what we define as bad even. So, yeah, no car. And no car also is showing and displaying no drive. No drive in the motion and direction that one's going at this time, too. So I would agree, Jessie. So we were going to talk today about shadow work, and I think this is the perfect time to transition to that. I have been dealing with a lot of people who are struggling with externalized shadows. I myself struggle with externalized shadows, and what does that even mean, right? So when we have lessons that are in our face and that we've rejected on our own, right? So if we know there's an issue or a challenge or problem with maybe prioritizing ourselves, we're going to find that that escalation means the external has a problem with prioritizing us. So externally, people are not going to put us on their priority list. And we may even feel like this is something that's happening to us from the outside rather than a piece of our own selves trying to teach us, saying, you didn't learn from the inside, so now we're going to show you on the outside. The raw consciousness states that the whole reason that we've actually been gifted with these bodies that are in a necessity of each other, that require community and others in order to create a life for ourselves. If you look at animal species, they'll have a clan, a small clan, but they think of that clan as like a singular unit. And they don't need other clans in order to survive. They just go hunt for each other and their children, and they're usually like a family unit. They don't need to have some clans having specific roles, whereas we as humans, we actually do. We need some people devoted to hunting, and some people devoted to farming, and some people devoted to building, and some people devoted to creating, and some people devoted to caring, and some people devoted to education. We actually need this community in order to be healthy humans. But what's happening right now is people are getting more and more isolated, and they're rejecting these externalized mirrors. They're rejecting relationships. Divorces are on the rise, friendships crashing and burning. There's this sense of I will be better if I'm all by myself, and that these other people are the problem. And, we also have some illusions around our connections with social media. And that would be that some people lose themselves in the social media environment where they can pretend that they're a certain way rather than be fully present. And that's one of the reasons, I don't know if you guys are noticing it, but on Facebook, they're really cracking down on people for not being transparent, not using their actual names, using false identities. We have a lot of people stealing identities and trying to manipulate and dominate and control. So this is all just part of that lesson of how vital it is for us to be completely transparent. And when we're transparent, that means that we've accepted that whatever you see about us is okay, because we're everything. We are all. We are just as much a mess as we are put together. We are just as much blind and clueless as we can see and have higher understanding and connection. We are just as much the problem as we are the solution. So that's what we're learning right now, and it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, this process. I agree with you, Siska. I do think self-care is going to be a big part of your year. I get a strong yes to that. So we also have these challenges coming up where we can't hide who we are anymore. For myself, I always wanted to have like a partner, right? I always wanted to have, especially in this energy working community, I wanted to have this other person who was working with me, who was a part of it, because I was afraid of stepping forward as myself, as who I am, as what I came here to be. And I still struggle with that. My own family doesn't really see me in anywhere near the same way that the spiritual community sees me. And that's actually a great gift as well as a burden for me, because, how do you come in and be like, well, God says blah, 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 when that's not what the family is experiencing. And the family certainly doesn't need to know what God says. They need me to hear what they're saying. So if I were to reject that, reject what they were saying, reject them, I'm rejecting the mirror. I'm rejecting that externalized surface that's showing me, giving me an opportunity to see myself that I can't actually get anywhere else. And that's why we are having our mirrors in our face right now. That's why we're having things stolen from us, why we're having things break down, why we're having beliefs and identities about ourselves be in our face. Is this real? Are you sure? Is this not real? Is this a part of you? Is this okay to be a part of you? Can you accept it? Can I love me even if I'm just a raging, crazy, delusional lady who is full of self-aggrandized notions about herself? Well, actually, you know what? Yeah, I can. And until I actually believe it, like really believe it, then I'm going to have on the external people coming and saying, oh, I don't love that about you. I don't love that about you. I don't like that about you. I reject that about you. Because that's myself saying, can you see how silly it is to reject any part of yourself? So as much as I'm in the light, I'm also in the dark too. And that's what we're here to do for each other and as the raw consciousness states it, we've been given the gift of the need for each other in order to have an externalized mirror to conquer our intuitive logicking brain that thinks it knows, that thinks it understands, so that we're forced to come into the heart and just feel the connection. So when we find ourselves rejecting others, and this doesn't mean Thanks, Jesse. That's very true. So this doesn't mean that, if you find that you're in an interaction or in a relationship that's quite damaging, quite destructive for you, that there isn't a need to create space for yourself. But if it keeps coming and keeps coming, then there's a lesson in that for you. Just like for me with the energy I picked up in San Diego, and I didn't understand it, and I didn't actually even acknowledge that I'd picked it up during the time, or even after I got back and was clear that something was really off for me, really, really off. I had to use that as an opportunity to figure out how was that energy finding a foothold in me. What was the foothold? And that foothold was more aspects, layers of my own victimhood, my own sense of things outside of me are beyond my control and they're hurting me. So that's what it was feeding on. That's what it was using. That's what drew it to me. But that's also the foothold that I gave it, right? That I created. And if I had just allowed the energy to just be removed, just cleared out, and not addressed the foothold with which it was standing upon, it's like I get rid of the marker and I can't find that spot, that energy again without it. So even though this frequency, this vibration that was coming through and negatively impacting me, driving me even more into confrontation, into self-victimhood, into self-defeating patterns, into aggression, into all of these things, had I just removed it, I wouldn't have found the parts of myself that believe these things to be true. And I may not have found them all, but I found what I'm ready to find right now. And that too is okay. And I know and I accept that should something else come along and should these things attach again in some way, that too is for me to learn. That's yet another flag, a highlighter going, ho, maladaptive belief, ho, look at this one. And I have to accept those things. Just like when you find that things keep coming up, challenges keep happening, things keep getting stolen, people keep deceiving you, people keep hurting you, people keep taking your innocence, taking your vibrance, taking your energy. Those are highlighters that you believe that it's something that can be taken, that you believe that you don't have an infinite abundance of what it is that's being taken anyway. So the shadow work, I've heard a lot of teachers talk about, highly overrated some family members. I noticed that I highly overrated some family members. I was the one that put so much weight outside of me that it's still a process the mirror reflects, but I'm not identifying with some. I can't read the rest of it because it's not showing me. This is all about balance, Siska. So if you over-identify with the external, give the external too much power, that too is an imbalance. It's balancing these two, right? When we are tanning, this is the metaphor that came to me this morning. When you're tanning, right? You lay on your back and you're like, oh, it feels so good. And then you start to get hot and you turn over. Well, when you turn over, you're actually facing your own shadow, right? And your back is now to the light. You've turned away from the light, but the back needs it just as much as the front. And so now you have nothing that you can look at but your own shadow. And then when that back is cooked enough and warmed enough in the sun, then you turn over again and you get to turn away from the shadow. That balance is the same in energetic work. So when we're doing energy work, if we only focus on the light and we never turn to face the shadow, we actually miss out on so many of our lessons. But if while doing energy work, we balance our light work with our shadow work, then we can find both sides and stay fully balanced and grow and build our tan, right? Our vibration, our frequency can rise. So when you find, oh, this path is too hot, it's not working, it's in my face, it's time to turn and face back and look at the other side. So if for you light work is looking to the external, then that balance is going to be looking to the internal. And if it's always internally focused, then that too is an imbalance, and it's time to look at the external. So if you find yourself completely isolating, completely rejecting others, well, you just burned your backside, right? Because you're totally focused on the inside, totally focused at the self. So we have to balance these things, and it's going to be different for every single one of us. When we see others that we love and care about who are burning, who are not seeing their own jump off the cliff point, and our desire is to go out and catch them and save them from this, we actually cannot save them. We can't. We're like taking away their highlighters, their marker points. We're telling them that they can't deconstruct in the way that they need to. So it's all a balance. And we all have free will, and we all have this desire to save others, or a desire to save ourselves, that has to come into balance with the desire for the others or the self, right? So I was working with, there's some women who I really respect. Actually, I have worked, one of them has been a student with me for a long time, and they found out that they were dating the same guy. Right? They found out that this guy was not only dating them, but was dating like 13 other women that he admitted to, and manipulating and controlling all of them. And one of them wants so badly to save the other, so badly to protect her, but really it's her own self that's needing that protection, that's needing that solace, needing that safety, needing to know that she's important enough that she's not going to sacrifice herself again for somebody else to be saved. And the other actually needs the breaking, needs to face this conflict, needs to see the truth of it, can't have you pulling out the highlighters. And so it's creating conflict between them, which is against their desire. But it's necessary. It's necessary in order for them both to have the learning and growth as individuated consciousnesses as well as a collective. And this is something that we face all the time. There's people that we love and adore and want to save them from their hardships. But that is actually our own internal desire to be saved. So when we are externally focused and we're wanting so badly to do something for others, recognizing that that's the internal, and it's time for shadow work. It's time to focus on the internal. It's time to actually turn away from the light of service and be service to self in that moment. And when we are so consumed and absorbed with the self, so consumed and absorbed with, but I can't let that person in because they're going to hurt me, and I can't let that person in because they're going to do this, and I can't let that person in because they're going to do that. Well, now you're lost in the shadows, and you can't actually find your way out. That's like being lost in the dark hollows and not looking for the light source to find your way through the tree thicket. So I'm going to go ahead and unless you guys have any questions about that, or I'm not covering something that you feel like you wanted to know about in shadow work. And Jessie, yeah, you are an example of that, and a beautiful one. You know, you've come amazingly far in the time that you've been, and as far as I can recall, I think you've only really been coming this far through watching the Oasis and through a few conversations with me. So how does one differentiate from true service to others and service to others that is actually service to self? Okay, so that's a good question. Let me feel for a moment about that. Well, first of all, what comes to mind is service to others is service to other selves, right? So that just means you're actually serving the other selves by doing that. I would say that here's what comes to mind also. The raw consciousness states that in order for one to be able to progress, to be able to shift out of the third dimensional learning into the fourth dimensional expression and learning, one must be of orientation of at least 52% service to other selves, and 48% service to self. So it's a pretty close balance, actually. Now, that doesn't mean that you also can't be 78% service to others oriented, because the more service to others oriented you become, the more you recognize you're also serving yourself. But it does mean if you go into the other direction, so in order to progress, if you're service to self oriented, then you have to be 98% service to self-oriented in order to progress. It's a high density, very high density. So it's like you have to swing all the way into service to self. But there's a big range there. Now, what I believe and what works for me is recognizing that every single person that I want to serve, that comes before me requesting in any way service, or I see as in need of service, I recognize that this is also service for me, and that there's a lesson for me in it. And I try to make sure that I allow my focus to be for them, but that I am one of the other selves as well. So I actually kind of put myself as an other self when I'm doing service work. This happened for me through doing readings, basically. I do psychic fairs about once a month, and I'll have a dozen to 24 people sit at my table, and a clear theme evolves. And every single person that comes to sit at that table, whatever their reading is, my desire is to be all like, well, you need to blah, 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 and this is blah, 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 blah. But what became more and more clear, the more readings I did, was I needed every single message that came through those cards for those people. And the moment I allowed myself to be one of the others and showed up in that reading with them as well, was the moment that they were able to receive the message wholeheartedly, because they didn't feel like they were being externally judged. They didn't feel like they were being externally labeled. When I was saying things like, oh my gosh, I totally get this. This is what it reminds me of for me. This is what I needed to learn from it. This is what I did learn from this lesson, and I'm needing a reminder as well. They were able to receive so much more. So when we include ourselves as the other self, as one of the others in that collective, and recognize that in service we are actually opening this channel of information to come through, I think that alone will create balance between the service to others and the service to self-orientation. Now, if you are in service to others and you are not serving the self at all, that too will create an imbalance, because you're rejecting your own lessons, and it puts you into this pedestal-like state of, well, this isn't what I need, but you do. And when we get into that pedestal state, we are actually rejecting ourselves. It doesn't seem like it, but it is service to self. I'm not like that. I'm better. I'm not that way. I don't have that problem anymore. I already dealt with that. That is actually service to self, because you're using others' negative or your view of negative experiences to prove that you're above it. So in that way, you're undercutting your own service work. At least that's in my opinion, in my humble opinion. So let's go ahead, and unless there's any other questions, duality and polarity, exactly. It's all about that. If anybody else has any questions, go ahead and throw them out on this subject. And if not, I'm going to jump into the meditation after having some of my coffee, because I'm dragging a little bit. Which is also part of it, right? One thing I feel like I want to throw out there, I don't talk a lot about external tools, but I use them, right? So even when we're doing work, I'm using a lot of my own tools for that work. That's so funny. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. One of the tools that I used yesterday, dragon, I got some dragon energy, is this. This is an amazing piece. I love this piece, and I'm going to show you all the different reasons why I love it. This is one of those pieces I bought from the miner directly. I think I paid $3 for it. I love miners. They're awesome. They're just like, I don't know, how hard was it for me to get it out? And so you're really just paying for that instead of paying for somebody holding it and going, this is very powerful. I'm going to change the energy in this way. $300, right, or whatever it is. So this is a piece of amethyst. This is a chunk of amethyst that still has all the iron flake within it, the iron from where it was formed in the earth. I love stones that have iron still in them, and I'm going to tell you why. They create a grounding while healing that I have yet to find in cleaned stones. So whenever that's another reason I actually like to go to the miners. They're not trying to make it look super pretty either. They're like, well, this is how it comes out, and this is what it is. Here's another example. This is just a cut geode. It's called it's a quartz jersey geode, right? Jersey because it's got all these tiny little points inside, and it still kind of has that yellowy color. That's the iron. So these are two of my favorites to work with, especially when I'm working with somebody who's got deep trauma, deep pain. Another reason I love this, it's like it's half of a heart. See, it's like the half of a heart shape. And on the inside, it has all these little triangles and pyramids inside of it. So it feels to me like it's got all the pieces that I love. I really connect strongly with this. So whenever I'm working on deep heart stuff, this is something I use a lot, and I'll have it at the table. So this was sitting right next to me. It was hiding behind my coffee cup. And I also will have this one because they're both quartz, right? Amethyst is a type of quartz. It's quartz with some other chemical components inside of it that turn it purple. In the process, and you'll often find them together. But the quartz is the main. Hi, Stormy. Quartz is the main. Is what the most abundant thing that we have on our planet. Our planet is mostly made of quartz, quartzite, quartz stone, in various forms, whether it's in crystal form or rock form. And it's one of the reasons, as Tesla says, the planet rings like a bell. It rings to the vibration of quartz. That's why we call quartz a master healing stone. It's why it's sought out. Even our Herkimer diamonds are a type of quartz, right? So we use quartz because it's the vibration of the makeup of our planet. It's the vibration of all of the things that we are. So it's really powerful at translating that energetic into that physicality. Down in, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Michael Tellinger's work. He's one of my favorite outspoken researchers. He lives down in South Africa, and he owns this property down there. And he started looking at how all the land was terraced, and how were there these lines, these like built-in roads and circular dome spaces, and these dome structures that had no windows, no buildings, no doorways, no access points in. And the popular culture, the popular belief in what's taught in schools is that these structures are pens or corrals for herding animals, and that the terracing of the land was caused by animals grazing. And so he was like, I don't know, I don't think so. I don't think that's true. So he started looking at satellite imagery and trying to find the pattern of these things. And he went down into and wandered around in the areas where they were the most concentrated. And what he found were these formed quartzite stones. And when he happened to ping one, the sound that came out of it was so intense and so amazing to him that he realized these were actually intentional. And then he started to theorize and postulate about why would somebody intentionally make these ringing stones that almost look like shingles that were used to build these structures. And he realized and learned as he studied and researched more that these were a part of an energy system. These were part of like an energy generator, and that the sound was a part of that, a component of that. So quartz is something that's been used for centuries. I mean, it's as long as we've been here, we've been using it. All right, so all that said, we're going to go ahead and start our meditation. And what we're going to be doing is some shadow work today. So I'm going to be supporting us with both of these stones, both of these. So feel free to connect in. I also like this one because I feel like it kind of looks like a real, actual heart, you know, like the chambers of a heart. So it kind of has that like look to it, doesn't it? Almost. So we've got like a metaphorical heart and an actual heart. So we're going to be looking at our shadows, and we're going to see what we can actually release. And everyone's going to have some different stuff, right? Because we all are individuations. The other thing I'm going to be using to support us, and I'm going to go ahead and put some on. If any of you have this essential oil, it's super powerful for clearing up your sight, for clearing your focus, for clearing your view of what is. So I'm going to go ahead and use, oh, by the way, it's clary sage. I love clary sage. I like to put a little bit on my forehead and a little bit on my crown whenever I'm going to be doing this kind of work, because it just helps me clear out. And whatever's left, I put right there, so I got a good smell of it. And I just love the smell of clary sage. So let's go ahead and make sure we're sitting comfortably. Andrea, your card was read way earlier, so feel free to watch the replay. Maybe this is some of it energetic. Some of it is. Okay, so go ahead and make sure you're sitting comfortably. We're going to allow our breath to guide our body as we bring ourselves into the present, into the here and now. Breathing in and exhaling. Breathing in, present moment, feeling the temperature of the air, smelling the air. And as you exhale, I want you to unhook yourself from everything that's already happened today, yesterday, the day before. Breathing in, present moment, present awareness, drawing those lines back in, and exhaling, releasing your hooks from what you have left to do today. What will happen after today? What's the future? Just unhooking yourself from it for this time in this space. Yeah, these are, so each time we get that kind of a deep breath, that catch, that is an upgrade in the vibration. Like, just like when you're in a car, for those of you who've driven manual, you have to go one gear up at a time. You can't just jump into third gear from first gear. You gotta start in first, go up to second, go up to third. So that's what's happening. You're ramping your energy up in this conscious breathing pattern. Up and forth until you can get at that cruising speed where you can just let go and ride. Breathing in, present moment. And as you exhale, unhooking and releasing yourself from your expectations in this time, in this space. Breathing in, present moment, present awareness, and just unhooking anything else that may be pulling you out of the here and now. And as you breathe in, I want you to grow your roots down into the earth. Feel those roots growing and thickening. Feel your feet and legs swelling like that tree trunk spreads out to give itself a good, strong, stable root base. Sending out more roots wider and deeper. Making them thicker and stronger, more vibrant. And take a few of those roots and send them down all the way into the center of the earth. Allow the fear, the aggression, the disappointment, the anger, those heavy emotions that really weigh us down to be like those lures that drop the line into the deep sea. Allow those to be the line drops that take your roots all the way down into the center of the earth. All the way down. Into the heart of Gaia, where though it feels like chaos and crushing pressure, it's actually perfectly ordered, perfectly spinning, recreating and retransmuting all the matter of the earth back into something usable, while doing so, creating the magnetic field of the earth that holds her space in the solar system, that shields and protects those within her. Right? Feel that spinning hot core, the pressure, as it takes all you have to drop down through those lines. Just allowing her to support you in this. See those roots continuing down through the earth, and as you go through, you're tapping into that electromagnetic field and allowing your roots to effortlessly burst through the other side and arc and come back around until you feel them again, your roots back at your feet, back at the base of you, your individuation. So you are fully tapped in to this field of the earth, to the consciousness of all beings here within it, to the full field. Allow that energy to come up through your feet, up through your roots, wherever they're connecting, up through the body. As you breathe in, draw the energy up. As you exhale, draw it up even more. Allowing it to flush and cleanse as it goes. Because all of us are always working. We're always releasing and breaking up our parts. Our cells are always digesting, always breaking down and growing new, splitting up and deconstructing. This is a continual process that never stops. Be so grateful for that. As we bring that energy up through the body, up through the chakra system is what we're going to come up through. The root chakra, and all of our minor chakras that are in relationship to our root. So we allow that water of earth, that Gaia energy to flush through, bringing them up through that sacral chakra that space of fire and creation within us. Bringing it up through our solar plex, our sense of self, our sense of purpose, our sense of empowerment. Bringing it up through our heart chakra, our sense of connection, our love, our compassion, our oneness with each other. Allowing it to come through our minor heart chakras, which are in our arms and hands, shoulders. Bringing it up through the shoulders into that neck and throat space where we communicate our throat chakra, where we speak what we feel and see, the bridge between our parasympathetic nervous system and our intellectual nervous system, our brain, right? This bridging takes on so much for us, holds so much for us, and expels so much. Bringing it up through that sixth chakra, the third eye, our visualization, our ability to intuit, to think, to see, bringing it up through that into this crown space and allowing that pressure and energy to build in the crown space until the crown opens. This is not something you do with intention. This is something you allow that to open. Setting that energy up, allowing it to find its way like a heat-seeking missile into source, into that infinite collective consciousness, infinite creator consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it, bringing that all the way up into source consciousness and allowing that light to just receive as it shines down upon you. And while we're up in source consciousness, blending our individuation with the totality, with the abundance, the multiplicity, while we're up there, I want you to ask Source to shine its light down upon you in a reflection of how Source views you, so you can allow this view of yourself that you don't see to come through. This will support you in this work that we're going to be doing today. Bringing that source consciousness down, that message of its view of you, of your purpose, of your gifts, of its love for you, of its gratitude for you. Bring that down and let it effortlessly and gracefully, like water pouring into you, flow through you, through the crown chakra, through the sixth chakra, through the fifth, the throat chakra, through the heart chakra, through the third solar plex. If you're feeling like the water isn't flowing as strongly once you get down to these lower chakras, remember it's infinite up here. Pull more of that down. Allow more to come through. You are of value and worth to have all of the connection that you need, all of the source that you desire, all of the support that you never thought you could get. Allow that all to come down and through you, filling up that third chakra, that sense of self, that individuation, down through the sacral, the second, down through the root, and pouring down into the earth. Now in this grounded and connected state, as we hold our own view of ourselves plus this view of Source that holds for us, I want you to imagine you have a mirror before you. First, allow that mirror just to show you what your reflection at this moment, in this time, in this space is. Just allow it to show you. Allow it to show you what you believe yourself to be. Does that shift? Has that changed? Take note of any responses or reactions within the body as you're looking at this mirror. Does the reflection actually look like someone else? Now I want you to actually imagine you're turning that mirror around, flipping it, just like you'd flip in the sun. And now you're looking at the shadow side. Allow the shadow side to show itself to you. This will be the things that you believe yourself not to be. The externalized view. What others are. Take note of any responses in the body. Any responses in the emotions, any sensations or feelings. Remember, we are not trying to fix, we're not trying to change, we're allowing ourselves to view and see, experience and feel, to receive and release all as is naturally ready to do for us. This is called a state of allowance. And that's what we're opening. We're allowing even the shadow to be true. Now flip the mirror again and look at the light side. The side of the self as you wish to be, the self as Source views you to be, the light side of the self. Has it changed? Is it the same? Are you having any physical responses? Are there pains or aches, pressures, fears, anxieties, thoughts or beliefs that have come up about yourself? Now allow the mirror to flip again, looking at the shadow self, thinking of things that come up, allowing them to flow through you. Has the shadow changed? Do you find yourself more comfortable with one side of the mirror or the other? flip the mirror again. Continue this process of flipping and looking, observing, receiving, feeling, until you forget which is the shadow and which is the light. Until they are so balanced, they too are one. I love you. I'm grateful for you showing up, doing this work, being committed to this message, and I'll see you tomorrow.